a media personality and mogul who is also the founder of Hollywood Unlocked, a multi-platform media company. In addition, Jason is the host of Hollywood Unlocked with Jason Lee Uncensored, a TV show that is now airing on Fox Soul. So I'm going to start by saying congratulations, Jason. This is a huge deal.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Now, Jason, for those people who don't know, Hollywood Unlocked, it actually started off as a podcast, and then it expanded into a nationally syndicated radio show with iHeart last year. And now it's evolved into a network TV show. How did you really, evolve and expand this brand?
Well, it started out as a blog, HollywoodUnlocked.com, and then I launched the podcast because I didn't feel like Viacom was allowing the audience to see me for who I was, the totality of who I was. Yes, I was gay. Yes, I was a blogger, or whatever you want to call what I was at the time. But I was much more than that, and I felt like there were more dimensions to me than that. So I launched the podcast because I really felt like I didn't have my own voice. In launching the podcast, I literally just started inviting people I knew to come on, and the conversations went from interviewing Floyd Mayweather and Cardi B at the start of her career to a goat and a picture of a little mama on a chair. And it just evolved into this fun, wild thing where I felt like people were able to see the mess that I would bring, but also see the intelligence, the emotional side,
Yes.
all the vulnerability. And then I did the Breakfast Club, and Charlemagne called iHeart and said, hey, like, we need to get in business with him. And so I did a licensing deal with Premier Networks and iHeart and launched in 52 markets. Now I believe we're in 55. And then James DeBose, he had me on Dish Nation several times on Fox and seen me on Wendy and stuff like that. And I met him through Queen Latifah at her office. And then once he became the head of the Fox Soul Network, he asked me if I'd come over, and then here I am.
Yeah, no, it's a long story. Your track record in media and in Hollywood goes back at least over a decade. And to see you really evolve like this is definitely a testimony. But with Hollywood Unlocked, I feel like your interviews are really known for being like really juicy, like these tell-all videos and like interviews. And a lot of times they go viral. How is it that you are able to really connect with your guests and these celebrities and get them to just spill the tea?
It's an interesting balance because, I was, chatting with Sky Jackson's mom today because we're trying to get her on the show. We've been trying to get her for a while because I just find her to be interesting. And she was saying that her former publicist, didn't want her to do a gossip interview. And I had to educate her that we're not a gossip platform. We talk about what's happening in the news. We do break stories, but they're all factual. We never make up anything. And we do clear the air oftentimes when things are reported incorrectly on other platforms. I think it's an interesting line to walk, right? Because if I'm interviewing, Tiffany Haddish, who I just interviewed the other day for like the third or fourth time, I want to talk to her about her relationship with Common. But this is my friend who I had dinner with last night, who I talk to every day, but I never ask her about her relationship with Common, And so for me, it's an opportunity to peek behind the veil of people that I know or like, or I'm interested about. And I think for the most part, people feel comfortable. I mean, recently I had Leandria Johnson on, one of my favorite gospel artists, and I could tell she was nervous at first. And so I tried to get them very comfortable. And once they get comfortable, they just start talking.
When you say with Tiffany Haddish, because I've seen you guys a number of times in videos and pictures together, you said you'd never talked to her about Common. You mean personally or on one of your shows?
Well, I mean, like, of course I've been around them. Of course I've traveled with them. Of course, I know they're together. And of course I probably know more than other people do. But when I spend time with her, I'm really caught up in how amazing of a friend she is, not who she's dating, who she's sleeping with,
Gotcha.
what I mean? So when I
Right.
when I get her in my environment, then it's my pass to be nosy, but never
Right.
from a salacious way. It's really just trying to get to
hmm
the heart of what people are talking about.
So, along with this premiere, which again is huge, I read that you also launched a new production company, Sutter Street Productions. Let's talk about that.
So I'm in the process of trying to get out of my Viacom contract. I've never talked bad
Mm.
about Viacom because they've been such a blessing to me, giving me my start on Love and Hip Hop, allowing me to go over to MTV with Wild 'N Out and then go back to Love and Hip Hop. But we live in a different climate these days where combat TV in our community should not be the priority for networks, especially when it's white people driving at the top. there are not Black people at the top of Viacom, managing the puppets that they hire on as cast. I've been a puppet for that network and I no longer want to be. I've asked to be let out of my contract. They don't want to let me out. So I'm sure that will become a very public fight at some point, because I just don't believe in being bullied. I've given you 5 years. We've given each other a lot of great opportunity and experiences. I felt a certain way how they let Nick Cannon go. I thought that was disrespectful to what he's brought to the network, but it shows you how white people, when they own the shit that you're on, they feel like they can treat you any type of way they want, discard you when they're done with you. But they didn't think for a second, Wild 'N Out's $1 billion brand. What are you going to do with that? You're just going to throw it away? So I think I've heard they're figuring it out and trying to bring it back. But with that said, Floyd, Charlamagne, a lot of Black creators have been talking about ownership and the importance of owning your content. People have tried to license interviews that I've done, and I charge them $7,500 per 30 seconds. So if you want that interview and you want 5 minutes of it, you can take 7,500 and multiply it by 2 and then times 5, and that's the number. And if you don't want it, it's okay. But that's the power of ownership, and that's the power of control. And now that I've reached a certain level of success and out there talking about how Black brands matter and Black media matters, I now want to create opportunities for other people of color, where they feel an equitable part of it, and where we can all get paid, but also still, utilize all of our relationships in order to stay in the driver's seat. And so Sutter Street Productions, I launched that. My show at Foxhole, I licensed my show to them. I still own the show. And I'm executive producer, and I'm excited to start this new venture as a content creator.
Yeah, no, and that's why I love talking to you, Jason, because number one, you always keep it real. And number two, you've always been business savvy. Another time when we spoke about this, you said that you own, I think, 95% of Hollywood Unlocked. You didn't want to, partner with too many investors because you've always knew the importance of ownership going in, and to see you making these type of moves. What would you tell younger people who are starting out in the game and don't have that type of leverage? Like, they can't go into a Viacom meeting and demanding certain things because of where they are positioned in their career. What advice would you give?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time where I was in my career and couldn't demand anything either. I remember my first run with Viacom, and they would talk to me. Sometimes on set they would say stuff like, "Well, if you don't want to do this, then you don't have to come back, or we just won't shoot with you." And what they would do was they would limit the amount of episodes you would be in unless you would deliver them the stuff that they want. And I remember explaining to them early on, like, hey, I want to show more layers to me. Like, my brother's death has been a big part of my life. As you know, I wrote a book about that. I showed that last season in Love and Hip Hop. And they told me that they didn't feel that the audience was sophisticated enough for that storyline. And I just felt like, unless we're throwing drinks, fighting, destroying each other's relationships or our own, you mean America doesn't want to see that? Black America, the Black America that I'm a part of every day. And so I think now with this climate, I just, I woke up one day and said, I no longer want to do that. To your question, and I say all that for the people out there that are watching this interview that may be thinking of wanting to get on. Listen to what I'm about to say. The doors for us are very limited because of the people who control the keys. There aren't a lot of Black people that control the keys. Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey are so far removed from this other generation that they have not built the proper bridge, so that way me and other content creators can walk across that bridge. So when they talk about Selma and the bridge that our people walk through, they built a bridge with gaps and broken pieces in it too. And so I look at Oprah and Tyler Perry, where I can no longer celebrate them, is that, you are disconnected from this generation. The way you build the bridge is not through old magazine and not through interviews with authors that are 60 years old and white. It's about reaching back to content creators like me, the Shade Room, Baller Alert, that have direct access to those younger millennials that need to be able to celebrate how amazing Oprah and Tyler Perry have been. And I would also say, don't be discouraged, because even though the white people hold the keys to that door, once you get in that door, as long as you don't give up ownership and control of who your brand or what your brand is, you will become powerful if you stay focused on your strategy. And then you will then be telling them white folks where to stick their keys.
I'm happy that you brought up Black media, Black ownership, because I feel like we're also in a climate where Black media is I don't want to say struggling, but we've seen shakeups at Essence. We've seen what happened at Ebony Magazine. You've been very vocal about Black media and just the struggle for support and respect. Do you think that anything has changed now that we're in 2020 and Black Lives Matter is literally taking over the world?
I think that I think that being affiliated with Black brands is cool as a marketing ploy. There's a lot of multi-million-dollar companies that I'm even a part of who are not pouring into Black brands the way that they should, right? And this is why, for me, I would rather be vocal and lose a partner, but stay true to what I believe, than to be disingenuous and build a facade for people to believe that these brands are pouring into us. I think that Black celebrities need to do a better job of circulating their time through Black media outlets. Why is it that you get on, I'll give you an example. I love Lizzo, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep clapping your ass on the internet, but you only do Hollywood Reporters interviews, and she loves Hollywood Unlocked. She said in an interview, she said it, but I mean, she's never done an interview with us. Why is it that you continue to shuck and jive and tap dance for them, but don't come to the home that talks about you every day, and talks, celebrate you every day, celebrate your body positivity, celebrate your freeness, celebrate your success? Why? Because there's an expectation that Black media is going to always talk about you, and you don't have to give us your time, and you allow these white publicists to navigate your careers, and they talk about us in a way, they vilify us where we're gossip or we're ghetto or we're ratchet. And it's just like, yeah, there are some interviews that I'm gonna have. If Tokyo Tony comes on my show, I'm gonna ask her with as much shit as she talked why she doesn't get a better dental plan. That's just how I'm gonna talk to her. But I've also had Senator Maxine Waters and Reverend Al Sharpton. I've also had Congresswoman Karen Bass on. I've also had, real in-depth discussions around prison reform and the other things that are out there. So we are not monolith. We are very versatile. And I just feel like it starts with us. We have to, I'll tell you something Tiffany Haddish said at dinner last night. She recently was hired to do a job and paid a lot of money. And she sent the money back because the company would not hire Black people to produce it. And she's never gonna go say that on her own channel. She's not gonna go out there and say that because she's focused on behind the scenes, elevating the Black voice, elevating and supporting Black media, making sure that these white companies are supporting and investing in Black creators and Black platforms, right? But that's a minor example of how more people like her in those positions of power and influence can reshape how people see Black media.
Absolutely. And, speaking of that, that's a great example. You've also been one of those people reshaping, Black media. I mean, I remember before COVID, you were calling out those on the red carpet who were skipping over Black media outlets. I've been on plenty of carpets, so I know exactly how that goes. Why is it that speaking out like that, like you said, sometimes it can jeopardize partnerships, it can jeopardize deals. What makes you feel like you have to continue to vocalize these type of issues?
Now, I'm not trying to compare myself to Harriet Tubman or people who freed slaves, right? But if you think about it, they didn't fear losing their lives. They didn't fear losing things. Like, with fear comes success, with fear comes gains. Like, you have to have the courage because it ain't just about you. When I went on the Breakfast Club and I first said what I said about Black media on the carpet and how they place and position those folks on the carpet, what makes Juliana Rancic any better than you? What makes anybody on the red carpet from a white outlet any better than Selena Hill? The problem is we are conditioned that Black is bad and white is good, that mainstream press is success and Black press is mediocre. That's how we're conditioned because we allow the people we bring into our teams to condition. I have no manager and I have agents that don't do shit. I'm about to let them go anyway, so it doesn't matter. I've built everything on my own by hard work, dedication, not being afraid to push boundaries. Charlemagne and I had a conversation last week, and I haven't said this, but I'm gonna say this. He said to me that he heard I was difficult to work with, right? And I said to him, Do you know how many women hear that in the workplace? Anytime their voice is a little too loud because the men can hear them. Do you know how many Black people are told that when they stand up for their true value? I said, Charlemagne, if you tell me you're going to give me A and B, and I tell you I'm going to give you C and D, and you give me A and B, and you're going to get C and D. But if you come and give me A and you don't give me B, I'm going to be right there to say where B at. And I don't feel that's a bad thing, because when you know your value, you shouldn't worry about what other people think or say, because when we're partners, see, iHeart, I don't work for iHeart. The Breakfast Club works for iHeart. I am a partner. I've licensed my brand to them, and I created a show that has become a hit show across the country. Fox Soul, I own my show. I'm not saying that for ego. I'm saying that I have to be able to be at the table equitably as anybody else, because I got tired of loving hip hop and producers telling me who I was going to be and how I was going to do what I wanted to do. So the people that are listening, if you want to start your own company, yeah, if you're really hot and you got that next best thing, one or two things are going to happen. One, they're going to try to go create it without you so they can own and control it, or hire you and rename it so that way they can control it. Or B, they're going to tell you that it's no good and they'll help you build it. And then somehow they'll weasel their way into your brand. Don't do it. If you believe in your vision and you believe in your contribution to the culture, keep fighting for it and keep staying in control, because then when you're in control, you get to write your own check.
There you go. Jason, you are preaching today. Thank you for the word. I do want to shift gears a little bit because, speaking of Hollywood Unlocked, you guys had a huge milestone, February 2019, when your site broke the news that NBA star Tristan Thomas cheated on Khloe Kardashian with her sister Kylie Jenner's former best friend, Jordan Woods. Now, this news was a game changer for Hollywood Unlocked. But, I saw in one of your interviews, you said that you had some regrets about the situation. And I have your quote. You said, I don't regret breaking the story because it was big for our brand and everything, right? But what I regret is how Khloe's team really tried to gaslight me behind the scenes to keep digging at Jordan, and then to bend to try to dig a hole and bury this girl. So my question for you, Jason.
Did I say that?
That's a direct quote.
You're so good. You're so good. This is why I said, what's different between you and Julianza? Because she wouldn't ask me that.
Exactly. So, hindsight being 2020, how would you have handled this situation differently?
Okay, so there's different layers, right? Specifically to the quote, I think that, first of all, I'm happy for Jordan Woods. She looks like she's in love with this guy. I don't know him, but he's fine as hell. I've seen him a couple times around the city. He's definitely gorgeous, and she looked great. She's lost weight and glowed up. Her brand deals have been a lot better, and there's a lot more singular focus on her as a brand, separate and apart from her and her friendships and relationships. So I will say that to her credit. I think at the time when I broke the story, I was a little emotionally involved because I had been betrayed too. And so I was more focused on the betrayal instead of looking at the optics of who all the parties were involved. I reached out, I felt the betrayal because I was so shocked that it happened. So I made phone calls to Larsa, to Larsa, who called Khloe and Kim and all those people, and then it became a storyline or whatever. I think where I was a little, they knew that I felt some type of way with the betrayal. And so
how were you betrayed, for those who aren't as connected or familiar with the story?
Oh, just friends of mine, personal betrayal, not and nothing connected to that. Just personal betrayal. I had a friend betrayed me. Anybody that's ever seen me act out online personally, it's all because I felt like somebody betrayed me, and I lost control of what was happening by getting caught up in my personal experience that had nothing to do with this story. So what happened was, when I saw the betrayal, I latched onto that. Like, how could you do that to your friend? In my mind, that just happened. That just happened to me. And what I did was I drugged Jordan, not thinking Khloe's done this to Trina. Khloe didn't know at the time that Khloe had done it to Larsa with Tristan, allegedly. And that this has been Kylie in China. This has been a culture over there where there's this concerted effort now behind the scenes to keep pushing the narrative with calling and saying, this is happening, this, oh, did you see this? Or break, if you don't do this, TMZ's gonna do it. And so all that was happening with that machine. And I was just leveling Jordan, leveling Jordan. And I felt like in hindsight, while I was loving the pickup and loving the big moment for Hollywood Unlocked, and while I still don't regret breaking the story, and while I still believe that there was some betrayal there, I think that all the leveling was unfair. You know,
Mm.
I felt like I think what Jada Pinkett was trying to do, because I even criticized her in the Red Table Talk, what Jada was trying to do was saying, hold on, hold on, hold on. Y'all not about to come for this girl because y'all know y'all do it too. And so in hindsight, looking back at it, especially seeing, Larsa now coming out and saying Chloe did it to her with Tristan, I'm like, damn, we wrote a little too hard. And so, yeah, I mean, for that, I regret that part.
No, I gotcha. I feel what you're saying. So, I also want to ask, quarantine, how you've been productive. I think you mentioned your weight loss. This is the new norm, and I feel like you've been taking full advantage. Not only have you lost so much weight, you got this network deal with Fox Soul. You launched a new show, Gagging with Jason Lee. How is it that you have stayed so motivated, professionally, physically, and mentally during this time?
Well, shout out to the Gag Nation, because if you're watching, you already know they so reckless. You know, when I did the podcast, I found myself getting bored with it, and I was literally right before the Fox Soul deal. You know, we had different host changes and stuff. I really was getting to a point where I was bored with it. And I was just gonna like end the podcast and just literally just
Really?
I was over it. But then I thought about, we had developed such a loyal fan base. We've had such great interviews. And if you look back over that time right before the show deal, I had stopped even really booking guests because I was bored. Like I wasn't even trying to book guests. I was like logging in, doing my thing, and I was going away. And so one day I was sitting here thinking how hard I built this brand and how far I've come. And I was like, you know what? I need to rebrand. And so when I started thinking about co-hosts, I brought in Blue Taluzma from the Griot. I think that she has a very good perspective on life, the culture, blackness, women, black women in particular. So I added her. Damage has always been ride or die since he stepped in for my last co-host, and he's done a phenomenal job. And I felt like I owed it to Damage to keep going too, because he had believed in me and came in with just eyes wide open, like whatever you need. And the same with Blue. And so when we did the rebrand, I thought, here I have a chance now to elevate this brand and do this in terms of interviewing, culture leaders and big celebrity names and, all of that, but then create Gagging with Jason Lee, where I can do pure recklessness and still deliver that to that audience that wants to see it. And we've had the cussing pastor and Hazel E and, the fans that show up make the show, and so all of that was on the business part. On the personal part, after writing my book, I became really emotional, rereading it all, going on tour, meeting thousands of people who were very emotional of the book, reading all the reviews online, getting the DMs from people that I felt like I started to really look at my personal life, and then the vulnerability started to say, and I started to get really emotional. And when I realized that I had packed on so much weight, by carrying all of my burdens, carrying all of my drama, carrying my brother's death, that I hadn't taken care of myself. And I'm like, how can you be so phenomenal in business, but then not be phenomenal in your own life? How can you show up for everybody else, but you don't show up for yourself? And the minute I thought about that, I did a whole bunch of tests and realized how unhealthy I was. I was pre-diabetic. I had inflammation. I had developed sleep apnea. I was 322 pounds at my highest weight. And
Wow.
so a friend of mine named Dave from Houston, he connected me with his doctor. I did a consultation with them. I had talked to him a year before, but I was afraid to go under, anesthesia and stuff. But I went to Houston in the midst of COVID, rented out a house, brought my whole team, set up shop, had surgery, got the sleeve done, and then totally switched up my diet and lost 85 pounds in the last 4 months. And now built a gym at my house, and I'm working out all the time. And I'm working out after this interview because it's less about what's
Mm.
happening on the outside, although people are seeing that. It's more about like, I want to live longer. Q from World Star, I talked to him 12 hours before he died. This man built a
Mm.
phenomenal brand that everybody hears around the world, but then he's dead and doesn't get to reap the benefits or see it, mature. So I didn't want to be that guy.
So Jason, I've been watching Hollywood Unlocked for a long time, and Melissa Ford has always been, your co-host. It was Melissa and DJ Damage. What happened with that?
Yeah, Melissa, I'll even just start with Melissa was there from the first show. She helped really cement Hollywood Unlocked Uncensored as a podcast and showing up as my friend and having dialogue that was very relatable. It was just like sitting in your living room talking to two of your friends. And she's really what helped to shape that feel. But Melissa had a rough year with her car accident. Then her mother unfortunately passed away. And I think that after her car accident, she was much more aware of how she was spending her time and how she was allowing her time to be shared with others, because she almost lost her life. And she created her show, I'm Here for the Food, because that was where her passion lied. And I supported that and still support that. It's a great show. And then she really poured into that. And then in the midst of building that and coming back to Hollywood Unlocked Uncensored, her mother passed away. And it was just one thing after another with her. And I think she felt she needed to kind of step back and focus on the things that mattered to her. She sent me a really beautiful email outlining why she wanted to leave. And, we're still cool and I
Okay.
support her. And, she's always welcome to come back on the show when she wants. And, there's only one Melissa Ford. And, I'll always have love for her.
I was surprised that you didn't replace Melissa with another celebrity. You went with a journalist, which I love because, it seems like all of these gigs go to celebrities that have no background in broadcasting. Why did you go with Blue, who obviously isn't as known, but is just as equipped?
Well, one, just because of what you said. Two, nobody gave me an opportunity and put me on. Three, I'm not threatened by whoever my co-host is. So for me, the co-host has to be somebody that relates to the audience, that has the pulse on what's happening in the culture, who's intelligent, who can reflect the sentiments of our audience, who can stand. I got a lot of criticism from Black women that felt like I wasn't defending the Black woman enough. And I wanted somebody there who was always a guard for the voice of Black women. And I feel like in looking at some of Blue's pieces on the griot, she's highly intelligent. She's super smart and witty and funny. And also when she had interviewed me on her show, Humanized, I really felt that she was interested in knowing who I was as a person so she can get to the core of who I was versus the outside facade. And that was like the selling point. There was nobody else considered for the position but Blue.
Wow. Wow. And like you said, when she was hand selected, so you were just looking for someone who could contribute and add value? The celebrity factor wasn't even a consideration?
No, because we've already been published in Vogue. We've been published in Vanity Fair and Billboard. We've been published everywhere. I go on the Wendy Show all the time. I already have the visibility. Having Melissa on the show was never about her being Melissa Ford. It was about my friend who was smart. Yeah, there was the sexiness to her, but that to me wasn't all of what attracted to me as her as a friend. Melissa's highly intelligent. She's fun. She's funny. And she's very diverse. She watches everything from Game of Thrones and, all that quirky shit that I don't watch, to Power and, Insecure. So that was that. But, a lot of the comments in our comment sections were always about what Melissa looked like, And that drove her crazy and it drove me crazy. And I said, you know what? I don't want it to be about what we look like or what we're wearing or what country we're flying to. Like that bullshit is over. I want to talk about issues that matter to people who are watching our show. And Blue, I mean, I didn't even know who else to even think about, So there was no interview process. I just called her and said, you want to do this? And she was like, yeah, I'm down.
Amazing. Well, the dynamic is better than ever. I'm happy that you still work with DJ Damage as well. And you guys are just, have your own lanes and now coming together as a collective to have these very important conversations is everything.
And nobody's threatened by each other. Nobody's threatened. Oh, you get more camera time. You're in the middle on this photo. Like nobody's Damage. There's no other person in this game like Damage. If anybody's looking to do anything with him, I'm looking at creating some more stuff with Damage because Damage is one of those people where he didn't come in saying, how much money we get? What we doing this? He just came in saying, tell me where I need to build. tell me what I need to bring to the table, and I'm gonna do that because I believe in you. And then
Mm.
boom, we went to iHeart, syndicated. Boom, we went to Foxhole. And I mean, I'm sure there's much more. Hopefully COVID is over so we can do live touring and go out to colleges and meet with people.
What changes have you saw ever since you changed your lifestyle and your eating habits? Do you see like a different energy? Are you showing up differently in your business or personal life?
Oh, DMs are lit. My gym is called
Okay.
My gym is called Thoughts. So I tell the thoughts, Equinox is closed, but you can come to Thoughts and work out with me. My fans are saying I smile more. I will say that I am spending time in the mirror, talking to myself, looking at myself, not from a vanity standpoint, but from a, critiquing. Like I want my abs to look this way. I want my ass to look that way. I want my arms to look this way. And also being true to myself, like I would never date anybody fat. That's no shade. That's not fat shaming. I just have never dated anybody who was overweight. So I got to be who I want to date. I got to be the person that I want to attract. Now, that said, I am dating a little bit, but not really. I think I'm just more focused on the journey and wanting to just be the best version of myself. 2021, though, when I pop out, Celine, I'm telling you right
Mm.
now,
Oh,
move
it's
on.
over.
Move over Harlem, move over Brooklyn, Bronx. I'm coming to every borough. Trust me.
Oh, we gonna see you there. It's hard to believe you're still single. I feel like you've always been talking about being single. Is it that you just keep your personal relationships private? Like, were you always single this whole time?
I mean, single but not lonely. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not one to put my personal relationships on Instagram and all that. Because for what? Then you'll be sliding their DMs, telling them all this stuff about me and this and that. I think, and I'm also like trying to decide what I believe a relationship looks like. Because I believe a relationship could be three people, a serious relationship situation.
That's
But
crazy.
then, but
Okay.
then if I meet the one, then maybe that one. But yeah, I'm not lonely, but it's hard for me to date because I went on a date the other day in New York, and as soon as the guy gets there, he's like, "So, why you don't like Nikki?" I'm like, "What? Why the barbs become what?" Like, and the whole dinner was about celebrity, and I'm like, when I'm off, we're not talking about that. I don't care about that.
Right.
So it's hard to date.
It is. Okay, even for Jason Lee. Just to get back on track. So, you've been building this multimedia empire. You got the deals, you got the shows. What's next in your empire?
Well, I'm happy to say that I am talking to a network tomorrow about a development deal, and Gagging will hopefully have a network. I know that Viacom, who doesn't want to let me out of my contract, wants to look at what I have to produce, but I don't want to take it to them because they had an opportunity to invest in me a long time ago and they didn't. I'm looking at my development deal. I'm looking at getting a couple more projects off on another network, another major network, and then my book is being developed for a series, and
Mm.
so I'm excited about that. And then I want to build out my team on my production side to start developing a slate of shows that we can just start pitching.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, we'll be right here for the journey, Jason. Thank you so much. Let everyone know once again how they can check you out on Fox Soul.
Yeah, Fox Soul, Hollywood Unlocked with Jason Lee Uncensored every Friday night, 7 p.m., 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And hopefully we'll be 5 days a week, so you don't have to put that in your calendar. You just show up every day when you get off work.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that's definitely going to manifest. Well, I always appreciate you.
No, and I always appreciate your support. And shout out to Black Enterprise for always, I really like how thorough and in depth your thought that goes into writing about me and the brand because it means a lot. So thank you.
No, of course. Yeah, no, for sure. You're doing your thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.